Hey Kev, let's follow this trail over here. This looks like there might be something waiting down there.
All right. Hey, wait a minute. Do you hear that?
Yeah, I thought it was just me. What the heck is that?
I don't know what that is. Whoa, do you smell that too?
That's unbelievable. Hey, look.
What the?
Hey, look, those branches are moving over there.
What the heck is that?
Holy cow, is that what I think it is? Look at that thing.
Oh my God.
It's a freaking Sasquatch. Welcome to the Bigfoot Terror in the Woods Sightings and Encounters podcast. I am your host, W.J. Sheehan, author of the series of books Bigfoot Terror in the Woods Sightings and Encounters. 10 volumes in paperback, ebook, and Kindle available at Amazon, and volumes 1 through 9, and very soon, volume 10, available in audio book at Audible, Amazon, and iTunes as well. So please go out and get yourself a few dozen copies. Pass them out to your neighbors and the children for Halloween. And may I introduce you to my brother and co-host, KJ Sheehan. Kev, how are you?
I'm doing great, Bill.
Well, as you know, Kev, I sent you over the picture. And, folks, I caught a clear as day, daylight picture of a large, red-eyed Bigfoot right in my front yard.
It may
Kev,
be
you saw it.
made
What do
out
you
of plywood, but...
No, you think he's plywood.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he just appears like he's made out of plywood.
He is
He's
cool.
actually-
He is cool looking. He's not the traditional Bigfoot pose either, which I like. And it looks like, if you look closely, like he might even have cloven hoofs, Bill. Because it's some kind of a crossover beast.
He's a fiend. A giant fiend with glowing red eyes.
I have to tell you, if I lived closer, I might sneak over there later and move him to the other side of the yard. Hey, what's going on?
Hey, he's a yard shifter. He's not a shapeshifter, he's a yard shifter.
There you go. Awesome.
Yeah, so my good friend Dave, love you, bro, out in Oregon. My logger buddy Dave makes up these Bigfoot silhouettes. Dave has had a couple of encounters with the big guy out there, 40 years a logger. And he's making these things up, and some people are putting them on field fences and the sides of barns. And he was going to try to ship me one over, but the price was ridiculous. So I had him, I had him make me a tracing on like butcher's paper that he taped together.
Ah.
And he sent that over to me in a tube. And I bought a piece of half-inch exterior grade ply and traced it out, jigsawed it out, sanded it, primed it, painted it, and there you have it. So
Well,
it's
if you
cool,
still
man.
have that tracing, you may want to send it my way.
Well, I was going to tell you, Kev, I saved it because I thought you might say that.
I might need one in my yard.
Yes, doesn't everyone?
Maybe it'll inspire me to do an additional tracing of like a dog man. I could have him look over my neighbor's fence that I'm not too happy with.
It's funny. Well, so after all the mayhem around my plywood Bigfoot, Kev, do you think we can post the picture onto the website?
I think we might be able to.
All right, maybe the folks can get a look at it and have a couple of yucks.
Yeah.
Interesting, though. Very interesting.
I
So
like it.
let's jump into it, man. What do we have in our
Yeah,
cryptids in
before
the
you
news and
forget,
other oddities?
send me the tracing, and if you want to autograph it, that would be great too.
autograph tracing.
I figure I can't get an autographed book, so.
Well, it's just the way it goes,
Yeah. Well, like you said, Bill, it is fall, and welcome to fall. And in fall, yes, one of my favorite things to do is to go up to Vermont and see the leaves on the beautiful sugar maples and all the rest of the trees turn their spectacular colors. Right? And in addition to the beautiful colors, it also makes it much easier to potentially see a hairy man as well. You have those bright backdrops. And one of my favorite places to go is Stowe, Vermont.
Okay.
Right, up in central Vermont. And today, for Cryptids in the News and Other Oddities, we are going to go up to Stowe, Vermont. But we're not looking at leaves. Instead, we're going to visit one of those beautiful, historical, wooden-covered bridges. However, this bridge is horribly haunted.
A haunted bridge?
Yes, so you're going to have to get your maple sugar candies some other day.
Well, what, pray tell, is haunting the bridge?
Well, first off, so this bridge is just south of downtown Stowe, Vermont. And I've been to this bridge, but I didn't know it was haunted. So I was there in the daytime. I don't know if I'll be back in the nighttime. The name of the bridge, the formal name, is called Gold Brook Covered Bridge. And it was built in the 1800s, but you can indeed drive across it. But it is a very small bridge, pretty narrow, like a historic covered bridge for wagons and stuff.
But it's operational.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And the locals, though, they don't actually call it Gold Brook Covered Bridge. They call it Emily's Bridge.
And who, pray tell, is Emily?
Well, Emily's Bridge has a story about it, but not quite a charming story. And
all right,
the publications say it could even be a great basis for a horror movie or even a horror TV series.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. When you look at it, the bridge looks normal. But you might say, well, who exactly is Emily and why do they name the bridge after her? So it's only 50 feet long, this bridge, that was built in 1844. And around the time that the bridge was built, the dark wood that looks so dark now was quite new, smelling of fresh pine and creaked every time a horse-drawn wagon crossed it. And a young woman named Emily planned to elope with her love. Their meeting place was this bridge, and they were meeting there in the evening. But her sweetheart did not show up when they were getting ready to elope. And Emily was filled with despair and desperate, and she hung herself from the rafters of the bridge. Yes. Horrible story, as I promised. So,
yes,
Emily is jilted by her boyfriend and hangs herself. And now, now for years, stories started making the rounds in the area of sightings of young Emily lurking around the bridge. But not the sweet and sorrowful Emily we learned about, but a vengeful Emily, full of wrath and apparently very long, sharp nails. Yes. And Emily takes out her vengeance on cars that are passing by on the bridge and sometimes individuals that are walking by on the bridge. And she slashes them with her nails.
You mean people are getting slashed?
People
too?
get slashed on their back. And their cars get slashed in the side and they have scratches down them when they stopped to see what the noise was.
Oh, boy.
Not
Well, it's
awful.
got to be something. Yeah, awful doesn't speak of it,
Yeah.
you know?
And they say if you go over there to the bridge today, you definitely will have a sense of something being wrong. And you'll get, tingles on your spine and that. And, because Stowe is one of my favorite places, unfortunately, we're not going up there this fall. No plans so far. And pretty soon the leaves won't be too visible up there in chilly Vermont. But when I do go back there, I will definitely go over to the bridge, albeit maybe not at midnight.
Yeah, now, has anybody talked about how many scratches are on their back or on the
No.
side of their car?
No, nothing about that.
Okay.
Did you have an idea?
Because things that come in threes are usually of the demonic realm.
Oh, okay.
That whole Antichrist thing, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Ah, okay.
3 scratches, 3 claw marks, 3 knocks on the wall. 3 is in the realm of creep. 3 is a telltale indicator that it's not something you want to break bread with.
Hold on.
So I'm
Someone's knocking at my door.
Is it 3 knocks?
Maybe I'll stay here.
Wow. Well, let me, since you're really into the creep deep tonight, creep deep or deep creep, a good friend of mine and friend of the podcast, Philip, who I talk to frequently. And Philip, I hope you don't mind me mentioning this, but Philip has what he calls a mimic in his house. And the mimic, I don't know, I think he told me the last time he saw it was about 6 months ago. The mimic has the tendency or propensity to appear as his young daughter. And it appeared the other day, but the young daughter is at grandma's house. And he told me this thing appeared in the hallway, looked just like her. He knows she's not home. The dog reacts to it. And he said this thing had the widest you-know-what eaten grin on its face from ear to ear. And he also told me, of course he knows it's not his daughter, that the face was asymmetrical. So picture that creep in your hallway walking around in a nightgown with this asymmetrical face, this big grin, and wearing the little nightie that the little one wears.
So like a twisted face, kind of?
Yeah. Asymmetrical. It didn't look right.
Okay.
Like it was contorted or moving around a little bit, How would you like to set eyes on that in your house?
Negative.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's awful.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm thinking about this Emily that appears, but in a more gruesome form than the Emily who had died on the bridge,
Yeah. No, 100%.
So, I don't know, man. Just picture running into something like that. That would just make your hair freaking fall out.
Yeah, if I had
Wow. Well, maybe it'll make your toenails curl up.
Just saying.
Yeah, so the mimic and Emily on the Emily's Bridge. But what was the real name of it? The Gold
Creek Bridge or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, wow, man.
Yeah, 1844.
Well, Kev, you remember Uncle Jack.
Goldbrook Bridge.
Goldbrook, you remember Uncle Jack. Our uncle was a watercolor artist.
Oh, yeah, I have some of his
And
watercolors in my house.
Yeah, he used to love the covered bridges.
Yeah.
and
I don't have
boat
any of the
scenes.
covered bridges, and tonight maybe that's good.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah,
that's
well, if you
good
relook
that
at-
I don't have any.
If you relook at one of his covered bridges and you see a little face peering around the corner from the inside.
Yeah. Or if you look closely, there's someone hanging from the rafters.
Oh,
Oh, isn't that lovely?
that wasn't painted in there. Where'd that come from?
Oh, lovely.
Oh, my goodness, man. Well, I tell you, that's pretty creepy, man.
It's super creepy.
You know, I know you like to go up there. So, you know, like you said, the next time you're in that neighborhood, man, you got to make it a point to just at least go in there and see what's going on there. See if you get some kind of vibe out of that place. You know?
no doubt about it. I'm going.
Wow. Well, I'm going.
Don't worry.
I'm going.
You can't stop me. I'm going.
I'm going. I got a pretty cool encounter here tonight. But as I begin to share this tale with you, it seems to me that the more accounts that I receive, there's somewhat of a pattern developing to some extent. And the reason I say this is that more than a few old-timers are coming forward in a way that kind of tells me they have or they want to get something off their chest. And basically, this is just another example of such an individual by the name of Reynolds Dreyfus, a longtime resident of the state of West Virginia. And, you know, for those of you who may be new to this podcast and my accounts, I had placed this one in one of my books after another account from West Virginia. And this is basically what Reynolds had to say. Back in the late 40s, I was living in the area of the Coal River, near to Lower Falls. At that time, one of my favorite pastimes was muskie fishing, with three of my favorite locations being Middle Island Creek, Hughes River, and Little Kanawha. Now listen, folks, if you know anything about this area, contact us. There were some muskies running through here in the 30 to 40 pound class. And besides casting a jointed plug for them, I had a certain technique that used to be very effective in getting some of the big boys. Before I continue with my story, I will attempt to describe to you what it is I used to do. My technique was first to catch some sunfish, suckers, or chubs to use as bait. I would take the hook and hook them lightly through the back and hang them from drop lines on some of the bushes along the shoreline. I use a big slip knot on the dropper so that the fish would be held slapping the water's surface with only the largest of fish being able to pull the slip knot free. The other technique which I used was to trail a live sunfish or sucker behind my lure with no weight. At any rate, on this day, I had portaged my canoe into the Little Kanawha River, and I was working the area just below what was known as the Falls at Bulltown. I had caught more than a few sunfish and had begun tying them to a number of bushes around an area of about 1 acre of water. My plan was always, after having secured the baits, to paddle out of the area and remain still along the bank, in a position where I could see any and all activity in regards to any of the baits being taken. For the sake of your readers and or listeners who don't fish, a fish slapping around on the surface may just be the best attractant known to man for getting a predator's attention. And on more than one occasion, my baits had even caught the attention of coons and foxes on the shore. One day, a black bear with cubs was actually peering out of the bushes looking at the commotion in the water. Now, this musky fishing, and as a matter of fact, any fishing, is subject to the fish being in the area or coming into the area while you are there, of course. The technique, however, was proven, and all I had to do was now sit and wait. I was in the canoe hugging the shore about 100 feet from my nearest bait, and some 200 feet from the farthest. I had 8 baits in the water, and they collectively were making quite a commotion on the surface. I had been holding my position for almost an hour, and the activity level of the hooked fish was waning as they tired, and in some cases were beginning to die. When suddenly there was a huge splash, and the slip knot dropped on one of the baits furthest away from me. I was looking at the activity with great intent and grabbing my paddle when suddenly a large, hairy arm, followed by the upper body of a huge beast, leaned out of the brush, grabbing the branch and the line that was attached to the fish. So shocked was I by what I was now seeing that I froze in my seat, hoping to God that this monster would not see me. This monster, as I call it, which I now know was a Bigfoot, tore the entire branch from the bush, including the line, and pulled the fish out of the river into the woods. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. By the way, this technique that I was using was well known and used by many other individuals along the rivers. It seemed to me in the moment that this creature not only had been watching me, but perhaps many others. I say this because it had obviously been in hiding within the bushes and was as well familiar with the line being attached to the bush. To my way of thinking, the Bigfoot had actually allowed me to catch the fish for it. When I saw it, it had bent full forward from its waist, reaching out over the riverbank to grab the branch. From my angle, what I was seeing of its body, which was from the upper thigh to the head, had to have been all of 6 feet. When it extended its arm and hand, the arm was enormous, with the forearm being maybe 8 or 9 inches thick, and the upper arms perhaps 16 inches or better. Its entire body was covered in long, dark brown hair, with the palms of its hands and face being somewhat blackened. Understand me, please. In these parts and in those times, there had been many folk tales and stories of such beasts and others, which had been passed down and kicked around forever. But never had I, nor any of my cronies, ever seen such a creature with our own eyes. And believe me when I tell you that me and some of the good old boys spent quite a bit of time in the deepest and darkest recesses of the region, both hunting and fishing. I had always said that if there was any truth to these things, then we would have seen them. And now I had. What do you think of that, Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, I love the way he puts it. Like, you know, he's always out there in these hollers or whatever they're hanging out in West Virginia with his buddies and saying to himself, well, you know, if these things really do exist, I would have seen one or I will see one. And then, in fact, he runs into one.
Right. And none of his buddies had ever seen one either.
No.
So,
I mean, not hard to believe. It's pretty rare, right? I mean,
it is. It's like a lottery pick to me.
Yeah. Only sometimes it's not a winner.
Yeah, well, you know, when you think of it too, Kev, like even a lottery, a lot of people win huge lottery prizes.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things, the odds are still 300 million to 1 every time you buy a Powerball ticket.
Oh, yeah, or more, whatever the heck the odds are. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, they're incredible odds,
Yeah.
And yet people win.
Yeah.
So the fact that a sighting of a Bigfoot. Now, look, I know of some people like Jeff, who will be, you'll read his stories in volume 11 when I get it out. Jeff was a guide on the back of Pikes Peak, Colorado, for 30 years. And he's had numerous Bigfoot sightings and encounters.
Right.
So it's funny that, some people have the luck of the Irish, if you know what I mean. And, it's interesting. And others say, well, if it's out there, how come more people aren't seeing it? Well, if you look at our website after Kevin posted, you'll see that I actually got a photograph, a daylight picture of a plywood Bigfoot, a rare plywood Bigfoot with red glowing eyes, broad daylight on my front lawn. So it can happen.
Super cool. And maybe I'll have one soon, too.
Yeah, how do you like this guy with his sneaky fishing technique? I never heard of anybody tying fish with a drop line just so like they're touching and slapping the water and tempting the fish to just take it off the surface, and then, of course, you see the line drop and you got it.
Yeah, no, I like it.
Kind of ingenious,
Yeah, I know they use it out here at the coast with, what do they call them? The big mackerels, the king mackerels. Right?
King mackerel.
Is it king mackerels or the big Spanish mackerels? The big ones.
I'm not sure because we don't have them over here.
Yeah, I think it's a big Spanish mackerel. So they can be like a few feet long, and they go on the end of the pier, and they get a really big cast out there, and then they have on a separate line a fish at the surface of the water near where their line is, just kind of splashing around.
Wow.
And somehow it attracts the big critters if it doesn't attract something else.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt. A wounded fish on the surface, if anything is around there that's a predator.
Exactly.
It's coming.
Oh, yeah.
And so you have the king mackerel. You can tell the difference, Kev. If you see them in the water, if any are near the surface, you say, ¿Cómo estás? Se habla de español.
That's a Spanish mackerel?
That's you'll know it's a Spanish mackerel if they slap the surface of the water a couple of times.
You'd be like, yo.
Yo.
And if he says, hey, no hablo español, hey, that's a king?
And then they squirt water at you like the Three Stooges eating the clam chowder.
Oh, perfect. Perfect.
Do you remember that? When they were sitting down that restaurant, and every time Curly went to get something out of the bowl, the piss clam would squirt him in his face. And of course, Mo would say, "Come on, you numbskull, eat your soup." Oh, they were so stupid. Oh, man. Yeah, so that's it, man. Crazy freaking Bigfoot encounter. Creep fest on the Emily's Bridge in Stowe. Oh.
Yeah, I love it, though. Good stuff, man.
Yeah, no.
I love the creep
nasty.
fest.
Yeah, we love the creep fest. So what do we got on our listener mail?
Yeah,
Kev?
we got a lot of email this week, a lot of quick, short letters. So we're going to hit a few of them. So, some that are just compliments, we'll touch on that. And then just a couple asking questions. So we'll start with a compliment from Troy out in Montana. He's like,
okay.
I'm a Bigfoot fan, and I love your style, man. And he says, I'm in Deer Lodge, Montana. That sounds pretty rural, Bill.
Yeah, I think I asked Troy. You're right, short and sweet, but I like that. Just get in, get out. I asked him, you got anything going on out there? So we'll see if he gets back to me. Maybe he's got a tale or two or can
There's
turn me.
always something going on in Montana.
Well, yeah, and if it didn't happen to you, somebody else
Exactly.
was on the receiving end, you know?
Exactly.
Wow. Good to hear from you, Troy.
Cool. And then our beloved field reporter, Rick from Ohio,
Oh, yeah.
he's writing in, which I hadn't heard about this, but I guess Netflix has a new documentary coming out that's done by Steven Spielberg, I believe. And it features a lot of detail on that famous UFO sighting of the mile-long delta-shaped spaceship in Texas going back, I guess it was in 2007.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Can you imagine a mile long?
So we've heard of that before. There was one in Chicago, too. Same type of craft, maybe the same craft, if there is such a thing, of course. And so I'm going to be watching for this Netflix Encounters documentary. It seems cool. I mean, more and more cool footage is getting out there, right?
Yeah, and, I remember hearing Art Bell one night, who, as you know, used to live in Pahrump, Nevada. Was it Nevada or New Mexico? Pahrump.
I don't know.
I think it was in Nevada. Anyways, he was out in the desert one night with his beloved wife at that time. And this thing came over them low and slow. And up until that point in time, he was just hearing stories, telling stories, sharing information, whatever, Mm-hmm. But after that night, he was like, man, until you see it for yourself, you have no idea. He said this thing was enormous, and it just kind of slowly crept over them, blocking out the sky. And there was no doubt what was going on, So, yeah, I mean, these things are out there. Who knows, man? Who freaking knows? So, thanks to Rick. Rick, by the way, folks, if you've seen something, say something, and you can contact us at BigfootTerrorInTheWoods.com. Hit the contact link and leave your number. Tell me briefly what's going on. And I'll be in touch with you, man. So interesting, and Rick, our friend Rick in Ohio, he does a lot of snooping around. We have quite a few people who do a lot of snooping around.
But Rick's been one of the first ones, and he's not giving up. He keeps telling us new things, giving me tips too. Stuff to look for.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. It's all good stuff, and we like that. Our show is based on you and us.
Yeah.
So we encourage you to contribute in any way, shape, or form that you think you can, as long as it's productive.
Fair enough.
You know what I mean? Kev, so what else you got? What else is happening?
Yeah. So we got another email from Dave, and he's given us a tip on a Japanese cryptid. He says, greetings, guys. I love your podcast. I've been binging since the first episode, and I finally caught up. There's a Japanese cryptid called the Ninjin. I've read a little bit about it, and I wanted to pass it along in case it's something you'd like to cover on the show. I look forward to your new podcast each and every week, so please keep them coming. Thanks, guys. Dave. So, Dave, I'm going to put that on the list. Thanks for the tip. Ninjin.
Yeah, well, there are a lot of things out there that aren't necessarily known by the general public globally,
Oh, yeah.
And it might be something else that they're calling this ninjin that's called something else elsewhere, Mm-hmm. So we'll have to look into that and find out exactly what it is,
We'll check it out.
Wow.
Check it out.
Yeah. Interesting, no. Yeah. Like you said, there was a lot of short inquiries.
Yeah.
in the mailbox, just a hello. And we love to hear that, folks. I mean, if you want to say hi and thank you or whatever.
We do. You don't have to send us a long note. It's all good. And then our last one, Bill, comes in from Philip. And Philip's asking about werewolves in Ireland. And I haven't heard of this. So he says the Irish werewolf is different from the European werewolf, as it really is not a monster at all. Unlike its continental cousins, this shapeshifter is the guardian and protector of children, wounded men, and lost persons. According to some ancient sources, the Irish werewolves were even recruited by kings in the time of war. Known in their native land, now my Gaelic pronunciation is not good, so like Thalad or Connacht, their predatory behavior is typical of the common wolf, not beneath the occasional nocturnal raid. So I don't know. I haven't heard of that, Bill. How about you?
No, I know nothing about it, but I'll tell you this. Philip is like a super historian. And, boy, he knows a little bit about everything from, I mean, you picked a topic in historicity. He'll have something to say about it, knowledgeable, not just jive talking, you know.
Very
so
cool.
Maybe we want to check into that Irish werewolf, too, someday and see if we could dig something up on it, you know.
I will. I'll definitely check it out.
You know, some people have accused me of being an Irish werewolf.
I know how that is.
You know. The fangs, mustachio, you know, howling at the moon, you know, eating a bowl of Cheerios, a slice of pizza. It's what werewolves do.
Or some Cheerios on top of pizza.
Did I tell you, Kev, a couple of weeks ago, I was bored out of my mind at work, and I had my earbud in, and I just went on the Prime application on my phone. And, you know, once in a while, I don't make a habit of this, but I had this thing going while I was doing my work. Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
Ah, classic.
Fantastic, man.
I haven't seen it in ages. But that's got, like, Bella Lugosi in it and stuff like that, right? Like the real
characters.
Stars, yeah.
Yeah, the only thing you didn't have, you had a different Frankenstein guy, but every bit as good as Boris Karloff.
Awesome.
Yeah, you had Bella and Lon Chaney and Frank the Monster. And fantastical. And I knew everything that was going to happen because I've seen it so many times, you know?
Yeah.
But it was really good.
But
man.
still good. Still good, yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
No, I gotta pull that up on YouTube one of these days. Watch it again.
Now you got a hankering.
Yeah. So that's it, Bill. Good creepy podcast this week. Thanks, folks, for tuning in and spending some time with us.
And now, always good to have you, folks. And by the way, if you should find yourself hiking through the woods around Emily's Bridge in Stowe, Vermont, or West Virginia, fishing for muskies by the Coal River near the Lower Falls, you better remember just one thing. Always carry more gun than you think you're going to need. Sleep tight.